are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for all right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Tuesday, March 19th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/GS. I said the old link again. GSMCpodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. Again, GSMCpodcast.net. I mean, that's like, what, the third time I've done this now? But yeah, I mean, listen, I was doing the old link for months. 5 days a week since September, basically. And I still have that on my mind, memorized. So even when I'm looking directly at the link, but whatever. So today, we are going to talk about the 2021 NFL quarterback draft class, assessing it because, a lot of things have happened since, these guys got drafted. So I wanted to talk about that. And obviously you had the most recent move of Justin Fields getting traded to the Steelers, so I just wanted to touch upon that. Then I wanted to get into more of Kenny Pickett's comments since being traded from the Steelers to the Eagles, and just talk about what he had to say. Then after that, I wanted to talk about Marquise Brown and his comments about joining the Chiefs, his reasoning for joining the Chiefs. Joining that winning culture, so I just wanted to touch upon that, and then just go through some of the recent moves that have been made here in the offseason. Things have kind of died down, though there were a couple of moves that were made yesterday that we'll get into, but again, nothing groundbreaking. But again, just wanted to update you guys on what's happened, at least yesterday, what happened. So with that being said, let's get into the first topic, which is talking about this 2021 draft class, quarterback draft class. So now this draft class, it consisted of Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and Mac Jones. These are the main, the main guys from that draft class. Other than Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson might end up going to another team, but yeah, pretty much everybody else is on another team. And listen, Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, they had a, kind of a second half collapse. Mainly because, him getting hurt, led to the collapse. But there were other things as well that led to it. But, Trevor Lawrence, I think, for me and many others, he's the franchise quarterback for the Jaguars. I expect him to bounce back in 2024. And listen, the Jags, they have a very competitive division. The Colts are going to be right there with them. You have the Texans that won the division, and they're going to look to try to repeat that. And the Titans made a lot of moves this offseason. So you would think that they're going to be somewhat better. Now, again, I still look at them as kind of the last place team. But again, I think this division is going to be very competitive, and I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, out of the quarterbacks here, Trevor Lawrence has been the most successful one, in my opinion. And again, it didn't get off to a great start because you go back to his rookie season with Urban Meyer, and it was not great. 12 touchdowns to 17 interceptions, 3,600 yards passing, a 71.9 rating. I mean, yeah, it wasn't great. It was not great at all. And then the following season, you bring in Doug Peterson. He passes for over 4,000 yards, 25 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, and has a 95.2 rating. So, again, big jump in year 2. Then in year 3, still passed for 4,000 yards, 21 touchdowns to 14 interceptions, and an 88.5 rating. So, again, the turnovers were an issue, and I think a lot of that played into, him getting hurt. But I expect him to bounce back. Now, they did lose Calvin Ridley. They brought in Gabe Davis. They dealt with some injuries. I mean, Christian Kirk, I believe, got hurt at one point. And you still got Travis Etienne there, who did run the ball effectively, for the most part throughout the season. So, I expect the Jags to bounce back. But, yeah, Trevor Lawrence has been the best quarterback from this draft class. Now, Mac Jones made the playoffs his first season with the Patriots. And, and listen, he was a Pro Bowler, whether you want to say he was or not, but he was a Pro Bowler. And, did show some promise his first season. But every year after that, it was like the opposite of Trevor Lawrence. It got worse and worse. He went from a 92.5 rating to 84.8 and then 77 in 2023. He went from 22 touchdowns and 13 interceptions, 3,800 yards passing, down to just about 3,000 yards passing, 14 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and then in 2023, 10 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, and 2,100 yards passing. So yeah, the numbers got progressively worse as his career has gone on, and a lot of that has to deal with changes with the coaching staff. They had Joe Judge and Matt Patricia as the offensive coordinator, the co-offensive coordinators after Josh McDaniels left to take the Raiders job. And Matt Patricia has a defensive background, and Joe Judge has a special teams background. Now, they both were coming off of being head coaches, but they did not succeed as head coaches. And Belichick brought them back. So then they brought in Bill O'Brien, and that didn't help either. So, and watching a little bit of his interview, since he's been traded to the Jaguars now, he looks happy. He looks like he is going to embrace, having this backup quarterback job, be behind Trevor Lawrence, who, again, part of his draft class. And you know what? Good for him. I think he deserves a fresh start. And you know what? Again, the Patriots really didn't surround him with a ton of talent, so we really couldn't see what he could do. So let's see. I mean, maybe he ends up just being a backup the rest of his career. But I think getting this fresh start and at least being able to sit behind Trevor Lawrence, I think that's going to be beneficial for him. Now, hopefully he doesn't have to step in at any point during the season next year, unless, the Jags are, really winning by a lot against another team and he has to come in and just, finish the game. But, take a couple of kneel downs. But other than that, you do not want to see Mac Jones on the field next season if you're a Jaguars fan. So, and then, of course, you got Trey Lance. I mean, listen, the 49ers traded a lot to get, traded up to get him. They gave up a lot to get him when they traded up. And listen, he really didn't play that much. And, he ends up getting hurt. And Jimmy Garoppolo ends up getting put back in to the fold. And, it didn't work out. So they ended up trading him. And, Brock Purdy, ended up being the guy. And look what the 49ers did. They ended up going to the Super Bowl. But now Trey Lance is the backup to Dak Prescott. And, they're going to be working on trying to sign Dak to a long-term contract. I think you could definitely see Trey Lance ending up getting moved at some point. If someone's desperate for a quarterback, maybe they look to the Cowboys and say, hey, we'll take Trey Lance. Now, again, we'll see what the price would be for him. I don't think it's going to be that much, but I think you could definitely see Trey Lance getting moved. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But yeah, it just really hasn't worked out. But again, it's he ended up getting hurt. 2022 was he was going to be the guy, and yeah, I mean he plays in week 1, and then against the Bears that like monsoon they played in, and then he ends up getting hurt the following week against Seattle. And then Garoppolo steps in, then Garoppolo gets hurt, they put in Purdy, and then the rest is history. In 2021, Garoppolo ended up getting hurt, and they put Trey Lance in. And in 2021, he had 5 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, 97.3 rating, 603 yards passing. And he did win. I remember he did win, the game against the Texans. So, I mean, he has won games before. I mean, what is his overall record? If I could find it. I mean, I know he won the Texans game, but yeah, he did lose the Bears game. Yeah, so he only played in 2 games in 20. Yeah, I mean, I think. Yeah, so he did play in 6 games in 2021. I don't recall what his record was. Actually, let's go to the game logs. That'll show us. Of course, it says no available information. Well, I mean, I thought it would, considering that, whatever. But yeah. So I know he won that Texans game he started. I'm trying to. I can't. I honestly don't remember the other games that he played in. I do remember. Well, I know he played against the Cardinals, and they lost that game. That was in Arizona. But I'm trying to. I know the Texans game he definitely won. But regardless, now he's with the Cowboys, and we'll see if he gets another chance. I mean, again, I think if a team is desperate for a quarterback, maybe they, look to the Cowboys and, maybe try to trade for him. So then the other 2 guys that you have, of course, Zach Wilson, who was the number 2 pick in the draft that season. And, Jet fans, they go back to that game against the Rams where, Sam Darnold and the Jets, they ended up winning that game and, basically hurt their chances of getting Trevor Lawrence. And they ended up opting to draft Zach Wilson. And it didn't pan out. It did not pan out. I thought his rookie season, he showed you flashes, but, it just kind of got worse and worse. And they brought in Aaron Rodgers, and they were hoping that, okay, maybe Rodgers can mentor Zach Wilson, and then he could be our guy, for the next 10 years or so. And Rodgers gets hurt, they throw Zach Wilson back in, and he just really couldn't get the job done. Played well against the Texans, but, again, it did not work out. Well, actually, he also played well against the Chiefs. They didn't win that game, but they won against the Texans. They won 30-6, and it was bad. And that game, they weren't playing in good weather. So, yeah, it was not a great pick by the Jets. And now he might get traded at some point, or they might just release him. Well, I mean, they brought in Tyrod Taylor. Rodgers is coming back next year. So, yeah, I mean, Zach Wilson is his time in New York is finished. So we wait and see what happens with him. And then, of course, you have Justin Fields, who was the 11th pick in the draft by the Bears. And, yeah, I mean, it really didn't work out. I mean, again, the Bears played better towards the end of 2023, but ultimately, they had the number 1 overall pick, and they wanted to hit the reset button and draft a quarterback. So Fields, of course, gets traded to the Steelers, and I think, him sitting behind Russell Wilson, I think he's in a better situation with Pittsburgh. I mean, listen, Zach Wilson didn't get drafted into a good situation with the Jets, how they've developed quarterbacks over the years, and Justin Fields getting drafted to the Bears. It really came down to coaching. That definitely has a lot to do with it. Because if they could have got drafted into a better situation, I mean, who knows what they would have looked like. I mean, for Trey Lance, it came down to injuries. Never really got a fair chance to see what he could do. Mac Jones, kind of the same thing. And the Patriots really didn't surround a lot of talent. They didn't really surround talent around him for him to be successful. Trevor Lawrence is really the last man standing right now when it comes to all those guys. And he's got to bounce back from kind of a down year in 2023. So, yeah, I mean, the draft class was not memorable. But, a lot of these guys can get a second chance. We'll see, what happens with Trey Lance. Like I said, Mac Jones now with Jacksonville. Zach Wilson's going to end up getting moved somewhere else. Justin Fields, is he the long-term answer in Pittsburgh? Again, just have to wait and see. But, yeah, it's this draft class was not very successful at this very moment. So, but yeah, with that being said, we're going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about Kenny Pickett, his comments on his fresh start with the Eagles. So that is what we will do when we come back from our first break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're now going to talk about Kenny Pickett and his comments on his fresh start with the Eagles. So, read a couple of articles, and basically, he was unhappy. Supposedly, he was unhappy with, them signing Russell Wilson. And another thing, too, is that, he refused to be the emergency quarterback in Week 17 against the Seahawks. And, he talked about his fresh start. So this is basically what he said in his press conference. He said, just think this is a good reset. Just a chance to play on this team in that quarterback room with a couple of great guys, helping those guys out any way I can and just be ready if my number's called somewhere down the road. Just trying to put my best foot forward and be an asset to the team. He also said, I think the communication is what it is. It was behind closed doors. I'm confident in the way I handled it. I handled it the way I should have handled it. I'm excited to be here. It worked out so well that Philly was the place I ended up landing in. I think everything happens for a reason, and I'm right where I'm supposed to be. He also said, I think that goes back... this talks about the emergency quarterback thing that I just mentioned. He said, I think that goes back to a lot of the communication behind closed doors that didn't go the way that I feel like they went in how it's getting released. There was a plan there for the game. It went down exactly the way it was planned to go down that entire week. I was coming off of the ankle surgery. It is what it is. And like I've been saying, I'm very happy to be here. And then this is what he talked about with his time in Pittsburgh. And he said, I think you always learn more from the adversities in life than a lot of your success stories. Just putting my head down and going back to work and doing what I love. I love to play the game. I want to get back to having fun, getting a chance to meet these guys, and I already feel it's a great environment here with the coaching staff and these players. So, I mean, he's looking for a fresh start. But yeah, it just seemed like, his time in Pittsburgh kind of just went on a downward spiral after the injury. Because I was reading an article by Mike Florio, and it basically just talked about, that he was just not happy with Russell Wilson being signed. And so it goes by saying Pickett canceled an out-of-town workout with Steelers receivers the day after Wilson agreed to sign with the to sign with the Steelers. Also, the article talks about how Pickett's behavior late in the season, after he returned from ankle surgery, it just was not positive. His behavior was when Mason Rudolph basically was still going to be the starter. And, again, talked about him not wanting to suit up as the emergency quarterback in Week 17. So, yeah, I mean, I guess the best thing for him was, the Steelers move off of him and he goes somewhere else. Because it happened so fast. They signed Russell Wilson. Mason Rudolph, he ends up signing with the Titans, and they ended up trading Kenny Pickett. And it was like, well, who's the backup quarterback going to be? And then that's why the Steelers went out and they traded. Hopefully, they don't want Fields to play that much. They end up just giving up a 6th-round pick for Justin Fields. So what the Steelers did, I mean, was great. But yeah, I mean, for Kenny Pickett, I kind of defended him because I feel like, again, he was another guy that just, really didn't get a fair chance. But, again, the Steelers, they wanted to move in a different direction, and what they've done, I mean, was smart. You get Russell Wilson on a very cheap deal, and you don't give up that much for Justin Fields. So with Kenny Pickett, again, the numbers aren't very, the numbers are not that great. 2,400 yards passing, 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 76.7 rating. 2,000 yards passing in 2023, 6 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, and 81.4 rating. Yeah, the numbers are not great. But you know what? The Steelers were winning games, when Kenny Pickett was playing, whether you like it or not. They were winning games. Now, were they winning games because of him or in spite of him? Yeah, I mean, you look at the Browns game in Week 2, the Steelers' defense scored 2 defensive touchdowns. The Steelers' defense can score points on their own. Yeah, I mean, I think what the Steelers did was the right thing to do. They moved off of him. They did something that was un-Steeler-like, and they pulled the plug, which I don't think a lot of people expected. You thought Kenny Pickett was going to compete with Russell Wilson for the starting job, but I guess that just was not the case. I guess he just wanted out. And the thing is, too, there's a lot of stuff that happened behind closed doors that we're never going to know. And I think he's trying to, kind of clear the air from his perspective. But, you're going to have people that are just going to say, well, you kind of were being a bad teammate. And listen, that happens. And yeah, you don't want to see yourself lose the starting job. But listen, he ended up getting hurt. And really the reason why the Steelers went on that downward spiral is because of Mitchell Trubisky. Mitchell Trubisky, replaced him, and he did not play. Mitchell Trubisky did not play well at all. They lost to the Patriots. They lost to, the Colts were a good team this year, or last year. They lost to them. The offense really couldn't get anything going, and that's why they made the change to Mason Rudolph, which, listen, I didn't think Mason Rudolph was going to do well. Mason Rudolph stepped in, and they won every single game he started up until the playoff game against the Bills, and they made it. So, a credit to Mike Tomlin for making that move, and credit to Mason Rudolph for being able to, rally the team and help them make it to the playoffs. Now, again, they beat the Ravens backups the last week of the regular season, but again, that wasn't an easy task. It's still the Ravens, and they did it. They went on the road in bad weather. They won that game. They won in Seattle. Seattle was was probably the most impressive win out of the 3 games, just because it's on the road, hostile environment, and Seattle's fighting for a playoff spot too. So, you got to give Mason Rudolph credit there, and here's the other thing too. It's bad when you have the players advocating for Mason Rudolph to be the starter for next season. So, again, that also has to tell you, a little bit more about Kenny Pickett. But again, I mean, he got hurt. And listen, when you got something good going, you're not going to pull the plug on it. I mean, you go back to Dak Prescott's rookie season. he's winning all these games, and, Tony Romo got hurt in the preseason, and then Romo's healthy. I mean, they kept talking about it week to week. Jerry Jones kept talking about it. Like, are you going to go back to Romo? Well, that never happened because you're like, listen, right now we're the 1 seed. Our team's playing really well. We don't want to pull the plug on this right now. So, I mean, if this was like, Tom Brady, I mean, they're going to put Brady back in, but it was Tony Romo. I mean, and not to say Tony Romo wasn't a good quarterback, but again, Romo had an injury history, and they elected to stick with Dak, but here, I mean, Kenny Pickett's only in his second year, so it's not like, you're not going back to a Hall of Fame quarterback. It's a guy in his second season, so he hasn't really earned that yet. So yeah, with the Eagles, he's a backup quarterback. That's what he is right now, and we'll see what if anything happens. Again, if you're an Eagles fan, you don't want to see Kenny Pickett out there. You want to see Jalen Hurts playing the full season. But yeah, I mean, he's going to have to embrace this backup quarterback role. But, I mean, obviously, what do you want him to say? That he was like, yeah, I refused to, suit up because, I was not happy with the decisions that the team was making. I mean, yeah, he's not going to say that. So, but yeah, I guess he's appreciative of his fresh start now with the Eagles. He's being a backup quarterback now. That's his role. And yeah, but it's, they had, he went to Pittsburgh, he went to Pitt, they draft him, he was looked at as, he's going to be the next guy, right? Well, it just never happened. And like, again, towards the end of, 2022, I mean, you have that comeback win against the Ravens, then you beat the Browns, and you need a little bit of help to get into the playoffs, but they didn't get it. They finished 9-8. I mean, I thought he played good down the stretch, but then, the offense got off to a little bit of a slow start. I mean, you play the 49ers at home, and the 49ers just, you didn't deserve to be on the same field as them. You struggled on offense in week 2. Again, the Steelers defense bailed them out. 2 defensive touchdowns. So, and obviously Matt Canada was kind of holding him back a little bit. You got to factor that in. Because, again, I think they did put up 400 yards of offense against the Bengals, but, again, they only put up 16 points. So, and then he gets hurt. But, I mean, that's what he's really focused on now. He's focused on his future with the Eagles, like I said. He really just dismissed all the reports of his negative reaction to Russell Wilson signing. But yeah, again, like, what did you want him to say? But it's a fresh start for him, like I said. And the Steelers, they got a new quarterback room, like I said. And it's going to be interesting to see how things play out for them next year. And I think they're in a better position than they were, a couple weeks ago, before they signed Russ. So, but the thing is, they're in a loaded division. Bengals, Browns, Ravens. I mean, it's a gauntlet. So, let's see if, Russell Wilson is up to the task. I'm looking forward to see what he can do in Pittsburgh. Although, I kind of said I don't really expect the Seattle Russ. I expect more of what we got in Denver, but we'll see. So before I go to break, just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link, and that is GSMCpodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show. Makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. Again, GSMCpodcast.net. I had to do that because, again, I just went right into the old link at the top of the show. So, when we come back from our second break of the show, We'll discuss Marquise Brown and his reasoning for joining the Chiefs. So we'll get into that when we come back from our second break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are going to talk about Marquise Brown and his reasoning for joining the Chiefs. So, he's joining the Kansas City Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes, he expressed his excitement about him joining the team. So Marquise Brown cited Mahomes and Andy Reid and the winning culture as factors that attracted him to Kansas City. Chiefs are looking forward to Brown's field-stretching abilities to add more big plays to their offense. Brown had 11 receiving touchdowns of 20 or more yards from 2019 to 2021 with the Baltimore Ravens. He signed a one-year contract and aims to prove himself as a big play asset. Brown praises Mahomes for his passion, leadership, and ability to make big plays, particularly with deep throws. Chiefs fans hopes to see Mahomes' deep ball prowess return in 2024. Brown admires Mahomes' arm talent, playmaking ability, resilience, and leadership qualities, which I just said in my notes. Listen, he adds that to their offense, which is something that's kind of been missing the last couple of years. You've seen Mahomes air. We did see Mahomes air it out a little bit, but not as much since Tyreek Hill's kind of left, which again, hasn't really been that much of a problem considering the fact that they have won back-to-back Super Bowls, and now they're looking to three-peat. So, again, it's a cheap deal, one-year deal, and if it doesn't pan out, it doesn't pan out. But, we've seen Marquise Brown make big plays since he's been drafted. Obviously, again, with the Ravens, I just talked about, statistics with the Ravens and him, scoring on big plays. So, and that's what the Chiefs were missing. They need a guy that can stretch the field, take the top off the defense, and, have Mahomes air it out. And Marquise Brown could be that guy in 2024. This would be beneficial for them because that helps out Rashee Rice, that helps out Travis Kelce, Again, this Chiefs offense is going to be better next year. Now, again, Marquise Brown is a guy that does, have a little bit of maybe a drop problem. So, and the Chiefs were the team that led the NFL in drops, amongst their receivers. So that's something you have to think about a little bit. But again, like I said, if it doesn't pan out, it doesn't pan out. It's a one-year deal. And you figure the Chiefs are going to add another wide receiver, probably through the draft, I would imagine. Especially, again, because the receiving core was not good. Rashee Rice was good. But, and Valdez-Scantling showed up in the playoffs, so give him credit. But unfortunately, the Chiefs did release him, so he's going to be looking for a new home. But, yeah, the Chiefs need more threats at wide receiver. And you know what? They did address that with signing Marquise Brown. Now, again, why did he join the Chiefs? Because of Patrick Mahomes, because of Andy Reid, because of the winning culture. And, yeah, signing that one-year deal to join the Chiefs, you want to be a part of that. And I don't blame him. You're playing with the best quarterback in the NFL. You're playing with the best team, for the last couple of years now. Well, longer than that. Obviously, they haven't, won every single season that Mahomes has been in the league. But, the Chiefs have been in the AFC Championship game every single year Mahomes has been the starter. I said in the league, but 2017 he only started one game his rookie season. Then 2018, that was when he took over. But anyways, yeah, I mean what the Chiefs have built is something special. And again, we saw the Patriots and their success for 20 years, and once that was over, then the Chiefs took over. And now people are sick of the Chiefs, but yeah, they have a winning culture. And yeah, you're going to have people that are going to complain about it. And it's all over social media, and just the NFL has it out for the Chiefs, or they're in with the Chiefs. They want the Chiefs to keep winning. But you know what? It's because you got to put the blame on these other teams. The Ravens, the Bills, all these teams that, were standing in the Chiefs' way, and the Chiefs just pushed them aside. The 49ers in the Super Bowl. 49ers should have won the Super Bowl. But it's because of, again, I said this, that punt, that muff punt by Ray McCloud changed the complexion of the entire game. And the Chiefs capitalized on it. And that's what the Patriots used to do. They cashed in on other teams' mistakes. So, don't blame the NFL. Blame the teams. Blame the teams. Because the Ravens only put up 10 points at home. The Bills, they left some points out there. And then they missed a field goal to tie the game. Late. Again, it's just credit to the Chiefs. And they have the best quarterback in the NFL. And despite all of the problems that they faced during the regular season on offense, it didn't matter because they were able to get back to the Super Bowl and win it. And now they're looking to three-peat. And again, whether you like it or not, they have built a winning culture there. They really have. And it's a credit to the quarterback. It's a credit to the coach. The coach helped develop this quarterback. Because you had him sit behind Alex Smith, and Alex Smith had a pretty good year in 2017. And once they, traded him to Washington, Patrick Mahomes took over, and Patrick Mahomes was great. He didn't wow you in his one start in 2017, but 2018, that opening game against the Chargers, it just was like, wow, this is unbelievable, this Chiefs offense. And, they've had to go through some changes because they have lost guys over the years. Particularly Tyreek Hill, and once he left, he had people coming out and saying, oh, they're going to miss the playoffs. Well, what ended up happening? They won the Super Bowl. Then they were struggling during the regular season in 2023, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, they missed Tyreek Hill. Well, they did win the Super Bowl the previous season. So, I don't that could just get thrown out the window. And then what ended up happening? They won another Super Bowl. So, no, they don't miss Tyreek Hill. I think Tyreek Hill misses the Chiefs. But that's a story for another day. So, Marquise Brown's reasoning for joining the Chiefs, that's expected. And he's looking to have a big season with them. And yeah, he's going to be that deep ball guy. And let's hope that, that ends up panning out for the Chiefs and he doesn't have a drop problem because the Chiefs don't want to have to deal with that. But yeah, I did go over his stats when he did sign. But yeah, his first season with the Ravens, he had 7 touchdowns, 584 receiving yards. Then the following season, 769 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns. Then he had over 1,000 yards, 1,008 yards receiving, and 6 touchdowns in 2021. So that was his best season. 91 receptions in 2021. That was his best season. And that was his last season with the Ravens. Then he goes to the Cardinals, 709 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns, and then 574 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. And again, Kyler Murray got hurt and, played with, Josh Dobbs and, Clayton Tune for a bit, and then Kyler came back. But now you're playing with Patrick Mahomes. So you're going to get the ball a lot. And Mahomes likes to spread the ball around, so. But again, I think this signing, it helps the offense. I'm expecting him to do well with the Chiefs. But we'll see, And again, it helps Travis Kelce. It helps out Rashee Rice. So, and also, let's not forget the Chiefs did run the ball. I thought the Chiefs ran the ball well in 2023. Isaiah Pacheco has been a solid player for them. And, again, let's see what they end up doing in the draft. You expect them to add another receiver somewhere. I mean, I know I keep joking, like, oh, maybe they should go and get Mike Williams. Keep him in the division. Big wide receiver. Why not? But, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, Mike Williams, like I said, he was meeting with a few teams. We'll see where he ends up going. What was it? The Panthers, the Jets, and what was the other team? I forget what the other team was. I think it might have been. Was it the Patriots? Might have been the Patriots. I know definitely it was the Panthers and the Jets. Also, the Chargers were open to bringing him back after they traded Keenan Allen. I know I did mention that, but yeah, I mean, listen, you knew the Chiefs were going to add a wide receiver, regardless. I mean, especially because they let go of Valdez-Scantling, so they bring in Marquise Brown on a cheap deal. And again, it could work, it might not work, but it's a 1-year deal. So if it doesn't work, then he's out. But, again, his comments, his reasoning for joining the Chiefs, I mean, again, that speaks volumes to, what the Chiefs are. And again, what we've seen the Chiefs do. And that's win. Again, you might not like it, but what they're doing is very impressive. And again, something we didn't think we were going to see after, the Patriots dynasty ended, and they're trying to accomplish that. I mean, they're already a dynasty. They have 3 championships now under their belt, and now they're trying to go for a three-peat to try to win 4 championships. And we'll see if they get it done. I mean, it really is a possibility, a strong possibility. Because again, you could look at some teams that have the best chance to knock them off, but I mean, most of their guys are coming back. They re-signed Chris Jones. Let's see if they're able to retain L'Jarius Sneed. They franchise tagged him, but they could end up trading him. They're only going to be better next year. And especially because of how they struggled in the regular season and they still won the Super Bowl. Now they're going to be better next year. I mean, what does that mean for the rest of the league? I mean, look at what the Bills did. I mean, the Bills had to release a lot of their guys. Like, they're going to be a different team next year. I mean, Stephon Diggs, he, sent something out, on social media. I mean, it's just been, up in the air on whether he's staying with the Bills or not. But, I mean, I guess for the moment, yeah, he's still with the Bills. But, yeah, they're going to be a little different. They had to let go a lot of guys on defense. So their defense is going to be a little different next year. I mean, the Bengals, hopefully Joe Burrow bounces back. That, again, to me, is the team that has the best chance to knock them off just because they've already done it. The Ravens, they added Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry has given a lot of teams problems, including the Ravens, which is why they signed him over the years. So, maybe that is the team to look at. Right now, the Chiefs are the team to beat. They have a winning culture. And Marquise Brown here wants to be a part of it. And let's see what him and Patrick Mahomes could do together next year in 2024. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. Yeah, so with that being said, we are going to take our final break of the show. And then when we come back, we will just talk about, latest news and headlines around the league, latest signings, some retirements, and rumors as well. So that is what we're going to get into when we come back from our final break of the show. So with that being said, for one final time today, stick around and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are going to go through some of the latest news in free agency. Again, nothing crazy. I think the craziness has ended for the moment. But there were a couple of signings that I wanted to touch upon and some others as well. Also a retirement, which I will get into after I go through the signings here. So Chase Young, he signed with the Saints on a 1-year, $13 million contract. So the Saints add a pass rusher. Obviously split time last year with the Commanders and the 49ers. And yeah, there were some questions about his effort. Again, I don't have to go through the play in the NFC Championship game. But, in the Super Bowl, he looked great. He recorded 7.5 sacks and 15 quarterback hits in 2023. But yeah, he was in kind of a rotational role with the 49ers. So yeah, the Saints add to their defense. So I think that helps them. So there was that. Then you had the 49ers. Speaking of them, they bring in a backup quarterback. They sign Josh Dobbs to a 1-year contract. And he ended up finishing the season with 2,400 yards passing, 2,464 passing yards, 13 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions across 12 starts in 2023. So yeah, he's going to be the backup to Brock Purdy. And yeah, he bounced around a little bit. Was with the Cardinals. Well, actually, I think he started out the year, at least like he was with the Browns, and then the Cardinals got him, and then the Cardinals traded him to the Vikings because the Vikings needed a quarterback when Kirk Cousins got hurt. And, he came in relief for Jaren Hall because Jaren Hall got hurt against the Falcons. He wins that game, plays well against the Saints, and you thought, okay, maybe the Vikings, they're going to somehow find their way into the playoffs, and that just ended up not happening. So now he backs up Brock Purdy. I think it's a great spot for him. He's with the 49ers, so, yeah, so that was another signing that happened. Also, the Cowboys, they made a couple of moves. They released Leighton Vander Esch, and they released Michael Gallup. And Leighton Vander Esch actually announced his retirement at 28 years old, and that was due to a neck injury that he suffered. And yeah, he's dealt with some injuries over the course of his career, but unfortunately he had to call it a career because, again, injuries. And this was a quote by him in an article I'm looking at currently. So this is what he said in a statement. He said, "I love the game of football so much, and my body won't cooperate any longer. I cherished every moment of my NFL career, and it has been such a blessing to play the game for as long as I have played. This year, things may look a little different for me, but the sole focus is being a great husband and father for my loving family." And yeah, it's unfortunate when you have to hear, players say that because, they still want to play. It's just, the body's not cooperating, then yeah, you just can't do it. And that happens to a lot of players. You look at Andrew Luck and him retiring. Jason Kelsey, he probably could have still played, but I think, how his body felt factored into it. So it happens to a lot of players. And, Vander Esch, when he first came onto the scene, he looked like he was going to be a good player for the Cowboys, and he was a good player for the Cowboys. But, it's just unfortunate that he had to call it a career early because, like you said, his body just was not cooperating with him. And again, neck injury. That forced. I remember David Wilson, the Giants' old running back in 2012. He didn't really play that long because he suffered a neck injury. And Van Der Esch is only 28 years old. So, it's, again, like I said, it's unfortunate to hear it, but again, he's making the right decision. And, so wish him nothing but the best. But, so that was a recent retirement. So let's go through some of the other signings. So actually the Bills, they signed, they gave Taron Johnson a contract extension. One of their corners, they signed him to a 3-year, $31 million deal. And again, like I talked about earlier in the show, the Bills got rid of some guys on defense. Jordan Poyer, Tre'Davious White, guys in their secondary. So Taron Johnson's one of the last guys remaining. So they bring him, or not they bring him, but they extend him. They also signed Yosh Nijman to a 2-year, $8 million deal at tackle. I think that's how you pronounce it. I pronounce his name. I apologize if I didn't pronounce his name right. But, so they bring him in. Oh, no, that was the Panthers that did that. Because I have, all the teams listed. So the Panthers did that. So, they added another offensive lineman. That was, I guess that was, the third one they added this offseason. The Bengals, they signed Sheldon Rankins. I think I did talk about that. He replaces DJ Reader, who signed with the Lions. Aaron Lynch had a workout with the Browns. He used to play for the 49ers. I haven't heard his name in a while. The Cowboys actually did make a move. They brought back Rico Dowdle on a 1-year contract, so they added another running back to their backfield. Because I think it was just Deuce Vaughn on their depth chart. But so they bring him back. Because obviously they didn't bring back, Tony Pollard. And, that's probably a position that they end up addressing in the draft. And they're probably going to have to go out and, draft a left tackle as well because, now you lost Tyron Smith. They do sign, they re-sign Rico Dowdle. The Raiders, they actually signed Alexander Mattison to a contract. With Josh Jacobs leaving, you have Zamir White. But you need another running back, so they bring in Alexander Mattison. And, he had a disappointing 2023. I think we were all, not all of us, but I know I was. I was expecting, big things out of him. Now with him taking over as the lead back now, with them letting go of Dalvin Cook. And that just really didn't pan out. So now he's with the Raiders. Change of scenery. Let's see what the Raiders end up doing. Is Zamir White going to be the lead back? Are they going to, draft a running back? We'll have to see. They bring in Alexander Mattison. Nothing really else. The Saints signed Nathan Peterman, I guess, to be a backup quarterback. There's not really, again, nothing else really groundbreaking. The Commanders re-signed, or they signed Jamison Crowder. Was with a few teams. Well, was with the Commanders, was with Washington. Then he's with the Jets. He was with the Bills. I know the Giants. They brought him in, but now he's back with Washington. Also, Andres Pete, the Saints' former guard. He was visiting with the Titans, so we'll see what ends up happening if they end up signing him. Nothing really. Again, no big signings. I think we kind of we're kind of past all of that, unfortunately. But I think the big moves, I guess, or the big things that happened was Leighton Vander Esch retiring, Chase Young signing with the Saints, and again, I guess Josh Dobbs, going to the 49ers to back up Purdy. So. But, just a minor stuff. Well, and then, like I said, Taron Johnson signing that contract extension with the Bills. So, there's still guys out there. Odell Beckham Jr., he's not going back to the Ravens. So we'll see where he could potentially go. I mean, does he go play for the Jets and Aaron Rodgers? I mean, do the Jets go and sign Odell and Mike Williams? Do they do that? You still got Clowney out there, Trent Brown. I mean, there's still some guys out there, that are looking for new homes. But, I think the craziness is over. Unless T. Higgins ends up getting traded, I think really we're waiting till the draft for the craziness to pick up. But, I mean, last week was just, it was unreal, the amount of moves that were made. And, the amount of running backs that changed teams and the quarterback carousel, it just, it was a wild week. But, now we got a long way to go until the NFL draft at the end of April. So, all the quarterbacks pretty much moved. I mean, I guess we'll wait and see if Zach Wilson ends up going somewhere or the Jets just flat out release him. Justin Fields got traded. That question's been answered. Kirk Cousins signed with the Falcons. Again, like I said, all the running backs, changing teams, Saquon to the Eagles, Josh Jacobs to the Packers, Derrick Henry to the Ravens. It's just unreal. Definitely a crazy offseason, but we're not done yet. We still got the draft coming up. What teams are going to end up doing there. And then shortly after that, the schedule comes out. So, I know I keep talking about it, but yeah, we're going to get to that point. So, but like I said, there wasn't a lot of, big things that happened yesterday. But yeah, again, just to update you guys on, some of the latest moves, even though they aren't, earth-shattering. But, hopefully something else happens. You never know. That's like I said at the end of the week. Last week, I was like, oh, we'll see. And then what ended up happening? Justin Fields gets traded and Aaron Donald retires. It's just a lot happened over the weekend. But, again, that's the NFL. The NFL, really, even when it's not football season, it still finds a way to grab your attention. So, that's pretty much it. Let me know. Make sure to leave a comment on the videos. I'll make sure to have up the show broken down into 4 parts, 4 segments before the end of the day. Get to work on that. Make sure to pay attention to the shorts that come out throughout the day. Again, hopefully, I usually just record them and I'll schedule them so they'll be posted throughout the day. So hopefully nothing happens from now till tomorrow. But again, you never know. I'll get to work on that. So make sure to pay attention to that. Make sure to like all that, comment. And like I said yesterday, make sure to check out the other shows as well. I will be making a guest appearance on the Chip Shot Football Podcast with our host Manny, tomorrow. His show is, I believe it's at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So it's a little late for me. Well, not really late, but still, it's, because I'm used to, being on at, in the morning. But, so I'll be making an appearance on that. So, again, his show is at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure to tune in. So I'll be on there for the first, half hour of the show. So make sure to tune in for that. And, of course, you'll have my show tomorrow. Of course, same time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Great show, as always. Again, let me know what you guys think about all the stuff we talked about. The Kenny Pickett stuff, the 2021 draft class, Marquise Brown and his comments on joining the Chiefs. And, of course, let me know what you guys think about, some of the latest moves, even though they weren't, again, that big. But, let me know what you guys' thoughts are, because I like to interact with the viewers. And, again, like I said, make sure to check out the other podcasts as well on the network. We'd really appreciate it. But yeah, that is pretty much it for me for today. Again, we'll be back again tomorrow, same time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet.